So what we're going to try to do, a couple of months ago, you were with us, Frank, and you mentioned something about a letter that you had received. If you ring the bell with you, don't talk about it. I'm just trying to refresh your memory.
Well, I've received quite a few.
Well, I realize that.
Well, it's from some scientists.
And you couldn't name names, and this led you to believe that there's a possibility that they're blindsided.
Yes.
You know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I know the letter you're talking about. I know where it is.
Now, Jackie Gleason was evidently listening for a couple of minutes, and he heard that he was going to be on, and I know that he has some business to attend to tonight, and David Field contacted him, and he is going to talk for a couple of minutes on our beeper phone setup. And rather than talk to me, because this is not going to be of any great interest to Jackie Gleason, I think it would be better if he talks to you for a couple of minutes on the phone.
Has he quit coughing?
I don't know. I can only hope so. This is the funniest that's ever happened. That I can assure you. I'm sorry that the people, and that should be a part of the
show. I know. I caught laughing.
So, you going to make the call? You got a small phone there? All right.
Come in, Jackie, please.
Wherever you are. You want to work with this, or you want to work with the phone? I'll put you on the phone instead.
That makes no difference.
You want to give it?
I can work with
a phone up, please. Long phone there. If you will, Ted. No.
It might be better if I work with that guy.
A little bit? All right.
Sure.
All right, then. You can do it. Good. Yep. Just put your water. All right. Now, wait a minute. Now, you tell me if you're in business. We're trying to get... Have you got him on? No. Well, push that switch up behind you there. Push that switch up or down, whatever, in the other position. All right?
Now we're in business.
All right. Are we on the air? Everything going?
Hello, Jack.
Now we're in business.
We certainly are.
Hello, Jack.
Hi, pal.
How are you?
All right. Where do I turn my radio down because I'm getting a feedback? All right. Did you hear the program John had with Gray Barker, who called up and sent him a big long letter? Gray Barker, as you know, a man who wrote a book and editor of some kind of a paper. And
he puts a little...
well-educated.
Yes, that's right.
He is now flying saucer to pick him onto an island that's being publicized by a friend of his. And then it's going to bring him back. You were supposed to go on this.
Well, I had a letter inviting me to go, Jack, but I couldn't go because that day I had to go to Venus and the point there.
Yes. Well, I was at Mars myself, well, I would have known.
I must have just missed you because I stopped by there on my way.
I'm talking about Mars Bar. I don't mean Mars planet.
Oh, I see. Well, no wonder I missed you.
No, but this guy, it's remarkable how an intelligent, supposedly intelligent man who has such various activities as a publisher and a writer, who can send a long letter to someone like Long John saying that he is expecting to be picked up by a flying saucer, and then this saucer is going to stop off at other few towns, like a school bus, and take everybody downtown to some island in the...
I can see where they were going to be awfully busy, just picking up.
Just picking up.
Yeah.
You know.
That's
Please,
right.
Clara, be on the sidewalk. We don't want to be late. You know, one of those.
When the flying saucer comes by, you got to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Now,
I couldn't go with them because of my religion.
yes, you won't go up.
No, I'm a devout coward.
That's right. But, Frank, you know, you did say something that had a tinge of that type tolerance.
Yeah.
You said that you had seen, or you had in your possession, or you had access to a letter, which made you absolutely believe that there were such things as flying saucers. Now, I really believe there are, but
have you ever seen one?
I thought I saw one.
Well, I never did see one, but I've certainly looked. But I have a lot of friends, you know, who are airline pilots, radar control men, and so forth, and they've all seen these things, and I'm sure they have seen what they say they've seen. Now, this letter you're talking about,
That's what I want to hear.
I got this letter unsolicited, and it came from a group of atomic scientists and physicists.
atomic science?
No, I can't, because
Well, see,
let me tell you why I can't. They are still in government employ.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, this means they're under security provision.
Well, what security is if there's a flying saucer?
Oh, well.
Nothing there revealing.
Oh, well, we're supposed to believe, according to the official dispensation from the Air Force, we're supposed to believe that these flying saucers are a matter of great national concern, although the same outfit tells us they don't exist. At the same time, they tell us that they do come under the security provision, and, they have several regulations which forbid military and government personnel from even talking about them. And this letter that
You're not military or government personnel.
Oh, no.
So you can talk about it.
Well, I can talk about them, yes, but I can't reveal the identity of these fellas, but I would have no objection doing with you what I did with Willie Lay one night on a show called The Author Meets the Critics. This was several years ago, and we were on
I
there.
think I heard that shit.
And Willie was giving Donald Glazer Kehoe and myself a hard time, and I asked him if I would show him a letter, and if he would show him who signed it and where it came from, if he would let me read one sentence, which was all I was permitted to read publicly. And I showed him the letterhead, and his jaw dropped open, and I showed him the signatures, and it opened a little more.
And what was the sentence?
The sentence said, "After 6 years of studying the material furnished to us in connection with these so-called flying saucers, we are of the unanimous opinion that these are interplanetary devices conceived and operated by intelligent beings of a very high order."
Now, was that letter signed by very important men in the government?
Yes. It was signed
Are
by...
they people that you would say...
It was signed by an important citizen.
So would you say they're people that would get in touch with the president?
No, I would say so.
You mean that... then they weren't big.
Well, they weren't, top flight men, but who evidently had a lot of ability. And,
Well, were they connected with the government?
they were connected, let's say, with an atomic enterprise.
But not with the government.
I don't know. I don't know exactly what the
Frank, we're back to the two pieces of bread again.
Yeah.
I think...
they had been analyzing stuff for the government.
But they weren't part of it.
I wouldn't say that they were actually career men or anything like that, no.
Well, see,
They've been hired to do it.
while Willie Lay's jaw would open, the revelation that people made who weren't connected with the government or weren't in any way connected with the governmental research is amazing to me. Why should you be surprised because some scientists or some gentlemen who are connected with the atomic research program, not with the government, but a private atomic research program, why should his jaw drop open when they say that they're flying saucers?
I think he was surprised in the first place because he recognized his scientist's name and his standing.
Well, if it was a good scientist, he'd be on the government team, I imagine.
Well, this fellow may be. I don't know exactly what his relationship was, except that I would be glad to show you the letters sometime, and then
See, the thing
maybe
that
we
touched
can figure
me,
it out from there.
the thing that touched me is Howard Menninger, or whatever his name is, he can't reveal anything that people from Mars tell him, except that will sell for $3.95, and he's got they never give him anything like a spoon with 3 cups to it, any unusual instrument that might be an advance on anything we have. Nobody comes up with any of it. They all have been there. They all have seen things. Ray Barker with the 3 men. Incidentally, did anyone ever see Ben?
I don't
Anyone met him?
see me before or after they dream.
Have you met him?
No, I never did.
There's a Long John Nebel.
Long John, you met Bender? Opponents say it's not.
I don't think anyone has met him. So we have 3 men meeting someone who might not even exist. Well, we have three guys in black suits meeting a guy that might never even exist.
Well,
so everybody's saying...
put out some kind of a little flying saucer paper, Jack, for a while, and he worked for some relatives.
Yes, I understand.
My understanding is that the relatives told him he had to get in one business or the other.
Oh, well, they might have been the 3 guys in the black suits.
3 guys in the black suits, I think, freaked him out.
Well, I told Long John to offer Ray Barker $10,000 to his 500. All he has to do, though, is put the 500 to
miles today, Jack, looking for cases where there has been tangible evidence of the existence of these things. I came across a case there at Camp in Brazil in September of 1953, where about 8 or 9 ounces of pure tin fell out of one of these things, which was evidently in difficulty at very low altitude over the residential camp, which is about 250 miles inland from Sao Paulo, I believe. And the government collected this tin and closed off the neighbors until they got it. It got over a rooftop, bird holes, and clothing and everything else. It was dribbling out of the edge of one of these so-called saucers.
Well,
They publicly stated that this was tin from a flying saucer. They turned part of it over to our Air Force, and I know that a Dr. Meaning out in Ohio College, Northern College, one of those analyzed stuff.
well, I understand that the Brazilian government does admit there are flying saucers, which is probably the only government that does admit.
I think you're right about that. And they not only admit it, but they release pictures which their photographers
Well, that's
take.
what I was just about to say. I spoke to Leonard Lyon, I think,
Yeah.
and he had been on a junket or a trip down to Brazil. And he was in the presence of the guy that runs Brazil, and he had seen pictures of flying saucers, and I believe motion pictures.
Well, I'm sure they have motion pictures, and they certainly, well, I know they do, because they were taken by an official photographer for the Brazilian fleet about 2 years ago. They got
Yes, I
quite a
remember
bit of
that.
They got 35 millimeter motion pictures, and they got a lot of color pictures.
I recall the still
huge,
photos of it.
spherical thing moving along over the mountains along the coast. And the Brazilian government was quite frank in saying that this is an unidentified flying object, and of course it's only one of several.
Now, did you read the report in State Magazine of the New Guinea sighting?
Yes.
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 You have seen them?
Yeah, in fact, 2 or 3
Reported that 4 or 5 seemingly human beings got up on top of the flying saucer and waved down to he and a flock.
seem to be responding to their gestures, according to
They turned 3 or 4 days, and there were several of them.
Yes, I saw that.
And that he did a great deal of soul searching to find out that he tried to figure out this solution, or he came to the final decision where that was absolutely what he'd seen. Not only did he see it, but 30 or 40 of his flock saw it with it.
I have a copy of that original report, which runs several space typewritten pages, and of course considerably more in detail than what they printed in the magazine.
And of course, there's the other story. The priest saw the flying saucer that was called the Vatican report on it. I think it was in Italy. I might be mistaken about it.
There's been quite a few sightings over in Italy, and some very good ones.
Well, of course, there've been some phonies. Those guys leaning on the railing, for instance, looking at the
pyramid of Sicily.
Yeah, where the sight line is absolutely out of sync with the object they have.
They're supposed to be. Of course, you've seen the phony picture, I'm sure, of the spacecraft over the steel mill in Ohio.
Oh, yes.
And every one of those things is nothing but a...
and also the one over Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Somebody threw a plate out the window.
Well, the ones over Ohio, over the steel mill, are reflections between the elements of the lens. And each bright light has a little spacecraft on the opposite side of the negative pointing directly at it. They seem to have an affinity for bright light.
I think probably the most believable manifestation of sources was the motion picture in the picture. I think, was it called flying saucers or UFO?
UFOs, I believe. And I think you're talking about the
over the ball
taken by this, Great Falls, Montana.
Yes.
And then the movie is taken over the desert by Delbert Newhouse's Navy War-AM.
Well, they only had one, I think it was the motion picture of the flying saucer flying over the ball field.
Uh-huh.
And if I remember correctly, it went behind the
water tower or something.
Water tower or something like that. And that was the end of the picture. I don't think they showed the other ones that you were thinking of.
Well, they were very good. They were taken in 16mm color by Delbert Newhouse, a Navy warrant officer near Tremont, Utah.
Well, where are those pictures now?
They've been released in some movie, and
well, I haven't seen them.
I saw them in the original 16mm form, but I never saw them on the street. No, they were in some movie.
Well, now I'll tell you a strange thing that happened one time, and as much as I hate to do this, there are real things. I said, now let's you and I do a documentary on flying saucers. I said, now who do you know in Washington that would know if there are flying saucers, or who tell us that just a fool gold and forget about it? And he says, I got the guy, General Zone. And we called the guy up. The guy said, hey, now look, don't get me anything. I don't want to get near it. Too hot down here. I don't want to handle it. And you might as well forget about the fact that you get no cooperation. And Morrow hung up the phone. He looked at me and he repeated what the guy said to him on the phone. In fact, I hear him now. And he looked at me and said, how about that? They're off.
Jack, was this after 1972?
This was 1956. And then
1952. Night in July. The so-called flying saucers were over Washington. They were
I remember that.
all right. But what most people don't know is that on August the 13th, just about 3 weeks later, there were 68 of them over Washington at one time on that night. I was right there in Washington at the time. I was on the mutual network. I had excellent contact. But the lid of censorship was so tight that I knew nothing about this. I'm sure that no other newsmen knew it either. But I knew nothing about it until 2 years later, when I happened, through a French official of the CIA, I got a copy of a document which they printed, how to identify and track unidentified flying objects. This was put out to radar control men, pilots, and others. And in there, they list all these 68 objects that were over Washington on that one night, August 13th, 1952.
Are we on? To those that may be listening to us, a couple of minutes ago, Jackie Gleason was talking on our beeper phone setup with Frank Edwards.
Is Frank still there, by the way?
Yes, he's still here, but he will be listening on the can. He can't enter into the conversation for a moment. Now, we have Gray Barker in Clarksburg, West Virginia. Gray Barker is the man that wrote the book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers. And Jackie Gleason, I don't know whether he read the book, at least
Yes, I did.
well, you're acquainted with it. Well, Jackie, supposing that you talk now, Jackie Gleason is not in the studio, he's at his home, and supposing that you talk with Gray Barker for a few minutes about that trip that they were supposed to make last week. Jackie, it's yours with Gray Barker.
Well, first, Gray, I'd like to say that I read the book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers.
Well, thanks.
I was intrigued by the three men in black who called on Mr. Bender.
And I was going to talk to you. I didn't suppose we'd say, but I saw a great television show last Sunday, and I saw a little segment of it in which a great electricity lit up the air, and made me want to see very much a show called Take Me Along, and if we make this saucer trip, Mr. Gleason, I do hope that you're along.
Well,
You've been conned, Jackie.
no.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't
Ray,
think
I certainly appreciate your compliment, and I hope it's sincere. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it is.
It is very sincere.
Now, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind.
And I've got to get into just one point. Gray Barker, you'll have to get a little closer to your phone or raise your voice. Gleason is coming in very clear and strong, but your voice is a little weak. Please do that, and then go ahead. Jackie, ask your question.
Gray, what kind of education have you had?
Well, Mr. Gleason, I was educated in a one-room schoolhouse through the 8th grade, then high school, and in Glenville State College, where I had a degree, a Bachelor of Arts degree, and a degree in education. In fact, I taught school for a while.
You were a teacher.
Yes, sir.
Now, what has been your experience as far as journalism is concerned?
Well, not a great lot, besides a college paper and a bit of weekly newspapers, those in the country which come out once a week. Then, of course, my own little, more or less amateur publication, the Saucerian Bulletin, which I try to get out now and then.
How about, what is isn't your business booking motion pictures?
Yes, that is my business, although lately I have been doing some publishing of flying saucer books, including Howard Menger's, but of course, I'm still more interested in theater booking because that's actually how I make the most of my living.
Well, Gray, obviously to you, what I'm trying to get at is a picture of your education. You're a college graduate. You make your living from a business, show business, which is an astute business.
It sure is nowadays.
Permit anyone to make money from it that isn't aware of the mores of society and everyday news and intelligence. Also, you say you're a school teacher, which I know carries it with the distinction of being a school teacher, dignity and honesty. And you are a publisher of books. Now, will you please tell me, Greg, how a man with this background, this integrity, and this honesty can send Long John a letter sincerely and really saying that you expect a flying saucer to pick you up. Now, this information that the saucer was going to pick you up was given to you by two people who you have never met. One, a doctor, who, from what I understand from your conversation, might not be a doctor at all, or if he is a doctor, a very misty one, because we don't know what his doctorate is in.
I think John put a doctor of divine chiropractic or something like that.
Well, did John know about it? Or,
No, I think he was kidding.
Oh. Well,
I'll answer that question by saying I do not know what the gentleman's doctorate is in.
Neither do I.
well, you don't know that guy anyway, the doctor, right, Craig?
No, only through correspondence.
How about Carl?
Only through correspondence and a call, but I believe that my letter to John merely outlined what these two gentlemen had told me, and I believe, I don't have a copy of it here, but in that letter I expressed that I was skeptical about it.
No.
But was nevertheless giving it a chance. I was waiting here just in case that they would stop, and I would be glad to go along, although
Well, I think if John had that letter, we would find out that it wasn't skepticism, but you did have a few humorous remarks in the letter, but not humorous enough to make anyone believe that you didn't believe that this saucer was going to pick you up.
Well, after all,
How can you seriously sit there down in, what town is that?
West Virginia, Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Clarksburg, West Virginia, and really believe that a man is going to come and pick you up in a flying saucer because two people who you don't know told you this?
Well, now
with your education.
Let me level with you. When I got the invitation, I was skeptical. I thought, no saucer is going to pick me up. But I accepted the invitation. But still in the back of my mind was that idea, what if they did? And I sat there hoping that this wouldn't happen. Because, quite honestly, I'm not sure that I would be a bit scared if one did pick me up. I'm not sure that I would
be scared of a flying saucer if you're not scared of Howard Menger.
Well,
I would be frightened of him.
Well, crazy.
Flying saucer, I'd let come right into my living room. But Howard Menger, I wouldn't let come into the lobby.
Well, as far as the flying saucers go, as far as what we've heard on this concern, we don't actually know what they are. I think that you would agree with me on one point, that there are such things seen. And you might go so far as to agree that we're not sure just what they are.
Well, I think you'd agree with me, Gray, that the mysterious way they have of contacting us, why they would pick Howard Menger, a sign painter in Jersey, to impart their presence or knowledge or intelligence to, and ask him to keep it quiet, not to tell anyone. And the great coincidence that he should marry a girl who had a Saturnian lover, and don't all these things seem to you to be dripping with fraud?
Well, as far as Howard Menger is concerned, first of all, in the Saturnian lover bit, we'll have to admit one thing, that it did make a very nice plot. Of course, Howard Menger fits into all of these contactee stories.
Why?
Because he has met people...
because he's had the goal. Because he has the goal to barefacedly say that he has met these people. That's the only reason.
A great many people, including Adamski and Truman Bethlehem, etc., said they met people from outer space. Now, I'm skeptical, even though I may publish their book, but I can't say for certain. I can believe, in fact, my mind, well, they didn't, but I can't be certain that they didn't.
But as a publisher, you present these books and you put a cover on them and you give flyleaf information to the effect that you, as a publisher, do give credence to what these people are saying in the book.
I don't believe that I did on the...
Well, you might. How would you sell the book if you didn't?
Of course, publishing a book maybe does give some idea.
Well, I don't object to you publishing a book. What I do object to is the publisher of a book giving credence to what is contained in the book.
Well, I don't believe, Mr. Gleason, that I have...
I wish you'd call me Jackie.
Well, if I may, I'd be very glad to.
Why not? If a saucer's going to pick you up, you can call me Jackie.
Who knows? We may be sitting in the same pair of seats on this giant mother ship, which is going to take us to the island of San Francisco in Brazil. Did you accept...
Now, I understand that island is owned by a couple of guys that have a great deal of money.
That has been said, although I don't think so. Now, Dr. Bernard is supposed to own the
Now,
island.
who is that? What kind of a doctor is he?
Well, it's another doctor. I don't know exactly what it's a doctor or not. Maybe it's another kind of doctor that Long John suggested. But I have done a little research, Jackie, since I spoke on the Long John show a few days ago. I dug out the files on Dr. Bernard, and I found out that previously, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, he was operating under a different name, something like Sigmeister. I'm not sure that's the correct name, and at that time, he was encouraging settlers to come down there and to possibly purchase land and to start a settlement, presumably which would be safe from atomic bombs. I had a couple of letters, and that's all. And that's about all the background I have on Dr.
Now, doesn't that sound wild to you?
It does.
A man who invites you to an island because it's safe from atomic warfare.
Well, now,
Isn't that ridiculous?
if I were a scientist, maybe I could
Even if it were a scientist, we know that there's no such a thing as an island that's immune to atomic warfare.
He didn't say that exactly. Saying was that somehow because the winds would come up from the South Pole, in case of fallout, perhaps the island would be safer. Maybe it's not entirely
Well, I think that island's going to be very safe as long as he's on it. Because I don't think anyone will be killed on that island, because I don't think anybody will show up on it.
Fellas, can I just interrupt a moment because I've got to identify the station, and then I would appreciate if you fellas would like to talk for a few more minutes. This is WOR Radio, your station in New York, 710 on the dial.
Great.
Hold it a minute, fellas, please. 1 minute till I tell you. All right, let me just remind our listeners again that Jackie Gleason is talking from his home. And a gentleman by the name of Gray Barker, the man that wrote the book They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, is talking from his home in Clarksburg, West Virginia. My name is Long John. I'm talking from the 24th floor of 1440 Broadway. Gentlemen, continue your conversation, please.
John, you are taking my part quite often enough.
I'm not taking any part.
Well, you take my part.
Would you talk a little louder, please,
Yes, I
Gray?
will. Yes, I'll speak up.
All right. What do you want me to do now, Gray?
If I get in trouble, just take my part.
In trouble?
Well, yeah, take a rap on me here.
No, I don't mean to be rough on you, Gray. I know that you're in the book publishing business, and I know that provocative books make money. And I'm in a business too, where my performance is provocative. I make money, and I theatricalize several things that I do to make my performance enhanced. And some of the things I do are theatrical, so I can understand someone who publishes books making those things theatrical and the presentation of books theatrical. But I would love to speak to Howard the manager and ask him Doesn't he feel terrible married to a woman that went with another guy from Mars? Hello, Gray. Gray? Are you there?
Hey, I'm Captain Tuppet. I'm sorry, you didn't cuddle up.
Where did we lose it? In Clarksburg, West Virginia? Operator.
Yes, just a moment.
All right, while you're getting that back again.
Mars, John. See what they're doing?
That's right. Those are the
Mystic Corbett. Mystic Corbett.
Just a moment.
All right, we're waiting,
All
operator.
right, now what else do you want?
Well, we want you to get back the gentleman that we're talking to in
All right.
Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Yeah, did you say something else?
No, I'm just talking to Jackie Gleason. I'm on the air right now, operator.
All right, just a moment.
And I can't have dead air. Jackie, this is a great gimmick, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful.
Of course, this means that we can't ever have you join us, you see. You'll do it this way, the
Yeah,
easy
this
way.
is great. You know, you should do this compass bit all the time.
I'm going to try it again. I think
You
this
gotta get Otis C. Carr on. And a Dansky.
See, that's an idea. I wonder if we could tie in some
Or
more
they could get a conference call while they're up there. It'd be nice.
That's a great gag. Incidentally, on this new TV show that I'm going to do on February 17th, which is a Wednesday night on Channel 9 at 10 o'clock, I'm doing a commercial too, Jackie, you know. I'm going to be interviewing Norman E. Cope, sales engineer for OC Car.
Oh, yeah. He's the one who handled the fun.
That's right. I know that.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello there, John.
Are we back in business?
Yes, I'm on Planet Leave.
Good. Yes, now just you'll have to talk a little louder, Gray.
All right, John.
All right. Now what is your complaint? You claim that I am not defending you?
Well, my complaint now is that every time I get on your show,
Yes.
practically every time I'm cut off. And I'm beginning to believe in the silence group that Major Kehoe talks about. When we get an interesting conversation on, somebody pulls the switch and we're off.
I tried to explain to him, John, that it was the magic barber in his clippers that does it. He keeps running around clipping the phone wires.
You mean the mystic tonsorialitis?
He's on my side.
All right. So, fellas, look, I know that all
One
of
of
you...
the questions I wanted to ask, John,
You go ahead, Jack, please.
was, I wonder what it does to Howard Menger's ego to realize that he is married to a woman who was married to a Superman before he married her.
Well, Marla Baxter, it's a pen name. That's her pen name. Doesn't claim to be a woman from another planet.
No, that she was in love with a Saturnian man, so she said.
Well, that was Howard Menger in another incarnation on the
It
planet
was?
Venus.
Beat that, Jackie. Fight that.
We have to understand these
Is
things.
it strange that a man with such a background ends up on this earth painting signs on oilcloth?
Well, apparently, if we can believe his narrative, his job is to tell us, you and I and everyone else, the story of the space people, and it just happened to be a common man that they picked. After all, the story goes that the space people have contacted, now I don't go along with this, the story goes they have contacted very important people.
Well, now, Gray, look at it this way. Why would a space person contact anyone? So let's not say Howard Menger or Dansky or anything. Why would a space person contact any human being on Earth? What would you think would be their reason?
According to the people who claim to be contacted, the space people have a message for us.
Well, what is the message?
Basically, it's a pretty well-defined line.
Now, is this message important to us?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, do the space people think that this message is important?
Evidently they do, or they
Now,
would think
they want us to believe it, don't they?
What?
They want us to believe it, don't they?
Yes,
Well,
they
then
do.
why don't they leave a little evidence along with this message so that we would believe it?
That's one of the things that has puzzled me, although some of these contactees say that they want this information to come out slowly, that if they told everybody and if everybody believed it immediately, the people might get frightened about it.
Why? I thought it was a message of love.
Well, people just aren't ready for that. Remember,
For love?
classic explanation of the worst of the world.
They must be ready for love. If Menger married a girl who was married to a Saturnian, must be ready for love.
Well, I'm sure everybody's ready for love, but the fact that there might be space people is, to some people, a terrifying concept. A lot of people...
Well, it was just as terrifying. It was just as terrifying when Christ was crucified. But there was some reason for him to do that. He told us what the message was, and he gave a perfect demonstration of behavior for people to follow. Now, if these space people think that they have an important message, and they want to get it to the people, I can't understand why they wouldn't provide some evidence so that we would believe that the message was legitimate. Instead of contacting a man who was a criminal, or who was arrested a few times, whether wrongly or rightly, I don't know, the fellow who in the West, who saw the flying saucer on the desert and walked in and they spoke to him in high German.
Reinhold.
Yeah,
Reinhold Schmidt is the man's
He
name.
was in the clink a couple of times. Now, Howard Menzer, who's over there mixing some paint and painting a sign nice in the yard, and they're sending down little colored discs that carry messages to them. Now, if they're going to contact these people to get a message across, they sure are picking some poor disciples. Christ, at least, had to find it. He had, St. Peter and Thomas, St. Paul, and a pretty intelligent man working for him.
Well, now, I'm not very
Now,
religious.
I'm not talking about religion. I'm just talking about the prospect of getting education. For instance, you were a school teacher. Now, they wouldn't let you be a school teacher if you didn't have some education, you didn't have some authority to impart your instruction. Now, why do you think they pick a sign painter and a guy that's been in the clink a couple of times to impart this very important information to the world? Why don't they step down and pick up a guy like Stevenson, Governor Stevenson, who's a nice fella, speaks nice English?
I have heard it said that the space people have contacted very important people, including leading politicians, astronomers, and so on, but they haven't listened to them. And I'd like to remind you that...
You mean to tell me, Gray, that you really believe that if Stevenson was contacted by a flying saucer, and he knew it was a flying saucer, and he knew these were legitimate people, that he wouldn't run out in the street immediately and shout this information?
I don't believe he would. I think
Why?
he would be afraid that, first of all, people wouldn't believe him.
Well, why wouldn't they believe
He
him?
hadn't seen what he thought he had
Well,
seen.
for all the flying saucer people, don't you think they have this intelligence?
I'd be
Pardon
pretty
me.
hesitant about renting out the...
Don't you think that they know that people would be ridiculed if they ran up describing the flying saucer doctrine? Don't you think that they would be very careful to give whoever they were imparting this information with some evidence that these people did give this information to them, so that they wouldn't be ridiculed?
Howard Menzer does have some evidence.
What
Which
evidence?
I have printed in the book.
What evidence?
To you in the form of pictures.
Well, the pictures are nothing.
A photographic expert should be able to tell something about it.
No, they can't. Not with photography today. That's a fallacy.
Fellas, may I just get in here a moment? This is Long John again. Now, we're going to try something more. Actually,
Getting your icon?
no, our friend Frank Edwards, the news commentator, he's sitting here and he's dying. You know, he wants
Tell
to
him
get
to
in.
hop in here.
Now, fellas, do me a favor. Jackie, you've been in
I'm
this
not picking
business.
up the tab for this, John. I don't care what you say.
I'm not going to con you into that. No, you've been in this business for years, and you know how difficult it is if people overlap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rely on the three of you to use Judge, try to make your points, and give the other fellow the opportunity of talking.
All right,
So I'll
get
step
off
out of
there.
this and listen. All right? Just a moment, Jackie. I'd like to ask you.
Hello?
I want to ask, this is Frank Edwards in the studios here at WOR.
I've been listening to this conversation, and I'd like to ask Mr. Barker a question. You said there a minute ago, Mr. Barker, that if Stevenson was contacted by a flying saucer and ran out and shouted it to the world, he wouldn't do that because people might not believe him. Is that right?
Oh, that was the premise I believe I said.
Well, let me ask you another question then in connection with that.
why would they believe Mencher if they wouldn't believe Stevens?
Well, a great many people haven't believed Mencher, including Jackie Gleason, I believe, and it invites ridicule when you say anything.
Are we talking about Adlai Stevenson?
That's who I'm speaking.
Well, I think that he's fully as credible a witness as Howard Mencher, although there may be some lack of ability on his part to face signs.
I think he's even more credible, Frank, because his wife was never married to a attorney.
Well, I got another question. We've been talking here about why the people in the saucers, if they are in there, why they would contact such people as Mencher and Adamski, a former hamburger cook, and people like that. Don't forget that the Air Force admits in a letter to NICAP signed by General Twining, the Air Force admits that they tried and failed to contact the UFOs, and they tried repeatedly. And it simply baffles me to think that the Air Force, that the saucer people, if they're so smart, would pass up this top-level contact and go pick on such people as Mencher and Adamski and Angelucci of those birds.
I think the Air Force tried to contact saucers mainly, if I understand it correctly, with bullets they shot at them.
No, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. They have tried with radio and radar and light, and on a few occasions they have issued the shoot 'em down orders, and as you know, on on July 19th and 20th of 52, they rescinded the order shortly after they issued it. They have made a long program of trying to contact them by every conceivable peaceful means, and they got no response.
Frank?
Yes, sir.
And Gray?
Yes.
When either of you fellas want to sell an idea, do you pick out a neighbor and send him to the source that you want to impress?
No.
You go yourself, don't you?
That's right.
Well, what's wrong with a flying saucer landing and a little guy hopping out and saying, folks, here it is. This is what we want you to know.
I think that would be the logical way for them to do it if they really wanted to have
all you have to do is land on a baseball field in Central Park, and there'll be plenty of people there, newsreels in 5 minutes. Everybody will know whatever this important message is. And we won't have to have mediums who fall into trances. We won't have to have sign painters, ex-guys that were in jail, hamburger chefs, and all of those people bringing us this important message.
Maybe the space people have a different psychological outlook than theirs. Maybe they have a different way of looking at things. Maybe they don't just know how to approach it.
Are you going to tell me, Gray, that a sign painter, a hamburger chef, are going to get the attention of the world rather than an intelligent man? Why don't they go to Winston Churchill? I'm sure anyone, if he ran out in the street and said he saw a flying saucer, I'm sure they wouldn't question him.
I think that if any leading figure would run out on the street shouting flying saucers, that would certainly be the end of his political career. And I think that that's one reason why the congressional investigations haven't been made.
Well, Gray, I have to agree with Frank. I can't understand why you believe that men whose integrity is unquestioned will be not considered truthful about such a subject, and a sign painter or a hamburger chef will.
Well, of course, not everyone has believed Howard Mencher or George Adamski, and we don't know.
I believe that's the understatement of the year.
Ray, let me ask you a question. Do you believe Howard Mencher?
I believe that Howard Mencher has had some unusual experiences, not necessarily all.
In or out of institution.
He's had unusual experiences, there's no doubt about that, but I'm talking about, do you believe that he's ever seen a flying saucer?
Yes, I believe that he's had some of these experiences.
Now, I don't mean experiences. I mean, do you think I know he might have had hallucinatory experiences or psychotic experiences, but do you believe he actually saw a flying saucer and that when he was 9 or 10 years old, a beautiful blonde dame hopped out of one of those things and said, "Oh, Charlie," to him? Do you really believe this?
I am serious about all the contactees, including Howard
Just
Mencher.
tell me about Howard Mencher. Do you really believe that,
Let's say Howard Mencher. Let's say that I believe that he has had some experience, even surreal, or either psychic, or some
Oh,
sort
well,
of
what
way.
you're saying is you believe that he was out in the yard.
And that he has, if they were psychic, that he has believed those have been real. And
Oh, well, anybody can have that, but you mean to tell me on that opinion of Howard Menger you published this book?
well, the book is, I don't know if you've read it, but I think it's very
I
interesting.
know, that question's unfair because
And it has
I
copies, Jackie, and that is why I published the book, because you can't publish a book unless people are interested in that sort of thing.
That's right. That's an unfair question when I ask.
Gray, this is Frank Edwards again. You sent me that letter inviting me to go with you on that trip. It was on January 29th.
Yes, I really forwarded that letter. That letter was from Mark Cobb, not from me.
What, wasn't from you?
No, I forwarded it.
Well, I was dumbfounded when I got it, particularly in view of the thing. And I think after hearing you describe those men tonight and where they live and so forth, I believe I know, I believe I can identify that doctor for you on the island down there. I think he's a veterinary who is taking care of a bunch of loons.
Well, I know that I mentioned a while ago that he had sent literature up here about a year ago inviting people to settle there and presumably purchase land. And I do know this too, that Dr. Marlowe, I don't believe I've mentioned this before, Dr. Marlowe is the real name. That's an assumed name, and he did use that while he was on the stage, Frank. He was a magician, I understand that. And that might be one reason why that might prejudice one's belief in this latest undertaking.
Is there any money involved in this thing, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of, Frank. Now, I watch that very carefully because I'm always on the lookout to see why people do such things. One of my friends and correspondents did write me asking me to forward a letter to Dr. Marlowe offering him $1,000 if he could go along. But I refused to forward that letter because I thought that was wrong to do. I've never brought you up to date on the outcome of that trip. You know it was canceled, don't you?
No, I expected it to be, but I didn't know that it was.
Now, when I was on the Long John show last, I think John asked me when the trip was, and I couldn't say because they had asked me to, and I wanted to go along with it. But that was the 29th of January.
Yeah.
And on Wednesday, I believe, I called up Mark Cobb, who's the secretary of Dr. Marlowe, and I asked him how things were coming. He said, well, I better give you the bad news now. The trip is called off. And he gave me a very fantastic story.
That was the second one.
Very briefly as to what happened. A certain Mr. Z, who later he said was a Mr. Zuko, had come to see Dr. Marlowe, had threatened him. Apparently he was an agent of some sort, and he said, Dr. Marlowe, if you don't ask the space people to call out this trip, we're going to call you up before the Secret Saucer Committee, and, things will be bad for you. Dr. Marlowe said, well, are you going to try to railroad me with some sort of a mental health thing? And Mr. Z said, no, we have other means. And the hint of dark.
Well, maybe the head of the institution wouldn't let the Secret Saucer Committee meet that day.
But anyhow,
I think that the street jacket prevented the pilot from operating the controls. That was one of the difficulties.
Somebody had a monopoly on the
Wait,
station.
I'll try to hang up in a minute. I just want to say this, Greg. A fellow like this take a good look at himself. You have a great deal of prominence from the books that you published. You have quite a name in the literary world. People place a great deal of faith in what you say. And I think you should inspect your not integrity, but your choice of material, because you have a great deal of influence in your writing. Well, you should be very, very careful about that. I don't think that you should send out circular letters of a particular letter that you got relating such a weird and such a fantastic proposition as the warfare, stopping off several places, picking up a lot of people, and taking them down to an island where some poor souls are down there who say that this island will be immune to atomic warfare. Your intelligence must tell you that this is fantastic and just a lot of junk. And if you repeat it and you propagate it, you're just being a confederate of these idiots. And I'm sure that your education, your integrity, your honesty, and your very niceness should tell you not to have anything to do with such kind of literature or the propagation of such forces. It's just fantastic, and I think that if you continue to do it, Ray, you're going to destroy your image.
Well, I would like to say this. As long as I put out a publication about saucers, I'm going to try to be, I can't be a really good one, but I'm going to try to at least be a fair one. I'm going to publish what comes in. I'm going to say that I don't necessarily believe it, but I'm not going to leave out anything because it may be fantastic or because I don't believe it or because one other person or major key.
Well, then what service does your publication serve then?
I don't know. I've never held it up as performing any great service, more than to pass on what information I receive here. And I'm going to continue to publish what comes in, no matter how fantastic it is, because what could be more fantastic than the
existence? Other than publishing, something letters to me. This isn't any publishing. You listen to something that you made a profit from. You set this on.
This top didn't have their address.
Why are you afraid that people will think you were nuts?
A lot of people have said that for a long time, Jackie, and I think myself maybe that I am, but I'm not very harmless with you now.
And you know, that was a very nice one too, Craig.
Well, thanks.
And honestly, I think you should consider the integrity element of propagation of information at that time.
Well, now, when I started in the saucer publishing field, no one knew about me. No one had ever heard my name. And now they have.
Well, that's another thing.
And if by going ahead and publishing everything that comes in, people stop reading, then I certainly shan't be any worse off than I was before.
Well, I think you have just explained your motive.
You get up early, Jackie.
Yeah, I have so.
And I appreciate it very much.